Hello and welcome to the next video in the Python for Absolute Beginners series. In this video, we are mainly going to be talking about conditional statements. And what are conditional statements? Conditional statements are statements that help us to perform different functions or different code lines based on a condition. So we are going to give a condition, and whether the condition is true or false, we are going to have a different thing to do for each of them. So let's see whether the condition is true, we want to perform this, and when the condition is false, we perform something else. So in Python, conditional statements, we mainly talk about the if statement, and the if statement has a syntax like this. Let's say if, and then there is a condition, and then in the condition we do something. So this is the basic syntax in Python. Do something. So, but we are not going to be writing condition do something. Obviously, we are going to have real conditions and real codes to write. So mostly the condition over here is something that's going to evaluate to a true or false. So we are going to have a condition over here. Let's say is 5 equal to 8, or is 5 equal to 6. So in this case, if 5 is equal to 6, we are going to print yes. So this condition is first going to check if 5 is equal to 6. So if 5 is equal to 6, this line of code over here is going to return true. If it's not equal to 6, it's going to return false. So in this case, this is going to return false and it's going to bypass the if statement. And since we didn't specify anything to happen, it's just going to pass. So in this case, when I run this, you can see that nothing gets printed over here. It just ends the code. The same thing if I put is 5 equal to 5 and I run this code, I'm going to get yes because 5 is equal to 5. Let me first close this. So as I said, this statement is going to evaluate to true or false, and depending on whatever it evaluates, it prints this statement or not. But since this is 5 equals 5, it evaluates true. So the same way I can just pass if true, print 5. This is just going to assume that everything, all the conditions we passed here gave us true, so it's printing 5. And if false, so in this case, it's not going to print anything for us, it's just going to bypass it. So there are several conditions we can check for over here. So most of the time we like to use the logical operators. So let's first talk about the logical operators. We have many logical operators that we can use in Python. We will come back to if statements after the logical statement. So the first things we know is the double equal sign. This means you are comparing two things. This is just comparing two things for us. Let's say 8 or 9 double equals 7. This means you are comparing two things together, and this is going to evaluate to true or false. The next thing we have is the not equal to, which is this and this. So this means not equal to. So if I write 9 this 6, this is going to evaluate to true because this is not 9 is not equal to 6. But if I do this is going to evaluate to false because 9 is equal to 9 and this says 9 is not equal to 9, so it gives an error. So this is not equal to. The next thing we are going to look at is less than. We also have greater than. We have the less than or equal to, and then the last one is the greater than or equal to. That's not all, but these are the basic ones that we know. So for now, we also have, let's see, the and, the or, which is just like this, and we also have the not. So the and is an or and not. Most of them are used to combine several statements together. Let's say 9 equals 9 and 9 greater than 5. So that's the use of the and, the or. We can also make this or. So now let's go back to the if statement. Now that we know what conditional statements are, let's go back to the if statement. So I can have a variable called num1, and let's store 5 in num1. Have another variable num2, and let's store 9. So now I can just check if num1 is equal to num2. I print equal. So in this case, if I run this, nothing is going to be printed because num1 is actually not equal to num2. So this equal is not going to be printed. So with if statements, we have what's called an else that we can just add to the if statement. The else is just like, let's say, a default that the if statement is going to result to if the condition is not passed. So in this case, I can have an else statement over here, which means if number1 is equal to number2, print equal, else you're going to print not equal, like this. Not equal. So if I run this, I'm going to have not equal because num1 is not equal to num2. So if I check for if num1 is greater than or equal to num2 and I run this, this gives me not equal because num1 is 5 and num2 is 9. Let me just clear the console. So when I run if num1 is less than or equal to num2, when I run this, I'm going to get equal because num1 is less than num2 because num1 is 5 and num2 is 9. And in this case, the else statement isn't run because the if statement was true. Also, we also have a way of stacking multiple conditions together using the elif part of the if statement. So we can have, let's say, a variable called name, and let me store kudus in this. So we can have an if statement over here that checks if the name is equal to, double equal to, not single equal to, is equal to, let's say, Joe, print Joe. And the next elif statement says elif the name is equal to, let me see, James. I'm going to print James. And then we can have our last statement, which is the default statement, the else statement. Else print none of the above, or just none. So what this does is it's first going to check the first condition. If name is equal to Joe, it prints Joe. Then if it's equal to Joe, this statement will be printed, and then it will exit the statement because all this is a single block of code. The if statement, if a certain condition is true, it doesn't run the rest of the conditions, it just defaults out. And the next one, if this is not true, then it goes to check for this condition. Else, if the name is equal to James, it should print James. And if that is true, it doesn't run the else statement, it just moves out of the if statement. But if this is not true, it goes to the else statement. So if I run this, I'm going to get none because it checks for this and the name is not Joe, it goes to this, the name is not James, so it goes to the default statement. So with the elif part of the if statement, we have the option to stack multiple conditions. So I can also check if the name is equal to kudus. I can just print kudus like this. So if I run this, I get kudus because first the name checks if it's Joe, it's not Joe, it goes to James, it's not James, it comes to the kudos, and since the name was kudos, it prints kudos and it doesn't go to the else statement. So that's basically how the if statements work in Python. This video is getting long and I'll be ending the video over here and record the next part in the next video. Thank you for watching and I hope to see you in the next video.